We all think we know the story of the civil rights movement. But what if I told you the most important figures were deliberately pushed into the shadows? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the secret history of black heroes whose brilliance and bravery literally shaped our world, but whose stories were intentionally buried. Let's be honest, the history you learned in school isn't the whole story. It's a highlight reel, edited for simplicity, but in that editing process, some of the most powerful and inspiring stories got left on the cutting room floor. And these aren't just fun facts or trivia. They're the missing chapters that change how we understand history itself. Stories we all know often give us a simplified version of events, where a few famous icons moved mountains all by themselves. And while those heroes are absolutely legendary, the truth is they were backed by an entire ecosystem of genius strategists, fearless activists, and groundbreaking pioneers whose names have been lost to time and prejudice. So today, we're digging them up. We're telling the stories of the people who worked behind the scenes, who took the first terrifying risks, and who broke down barriers not with one televised moment, but with years of relentless, uncelebrated work. These are the stories of the hidden power of black heroes. Everyone knows Rosa Parks. Her calm, dignified refusal to give up her bus seat in Montgomery, Alabama, on December 1st, 1955, is a cornerstone of American history. But the first stone was actually thrown 9 months earlier by a fiery 15-year-old girl. Her name was Claudette Colvin. Just try to imagine being 15 years old in 1955 Montgomery. The air is thick with Jim Crow oppression. Every single day, you're reminded of your supposed place through 1,000 tiny, brutal cuts, separate water fountains, backdoor entrances, and the constant threat of violence if you step out of line. Fear isn't just an emotion, it's a part of the air you breathe. On March 2nd, 1955, Claudette was on the bus heading home from school. When the bus got crowded, the driver yelled at her and 3 other black students to give up their whole row for one white passenger. The other 3 moved. Claudette didn't. She later said, "I felt like Sojourner Truth's hands were pushing me down on one shoulder, and Harriet Tubman's hands were pushing me down on the other." She wasn't just sitting there. She was taking a stand, arguing that she'd paid her fare, and it was her constitutional right. Think about the guts that took for a teenager, in that time and place, to defy not just a bus driver, but the entire system. She was arrested, manhandled by cops, and thrown in an adult jail cell. The NAACP initially thought about building a case around her, but ultimately, they decided against it. Why? Because Claudette was young, came from a poor family, and later became pregnant as an unmarried teen. Movement leaders worried she wouldn't be a respectable enough symbol to win over white America. They wanted a face that was middle-class, adult, and unimpeachable. 9 months later, Rosa Parks, a respected secretary for the NAACP, became that face. But Claudette's story doesn't end there. Though she was passed over, her fight was far from over. She became one of 4 brave plaintiffs in the legal case Browder v. Gale *. And it was *, this case, *, not the boycott. that went all the way to the Supreme Court and legally demolished bus segregation in Alabama. Claudette Colvin, the forgotten pioneer, helped dismantle the very system that tried to crush her. For decades, she lived with the weight of a juvenile criminal record. But in 2021, at 82 years old, her record was finally wiped clean. It was a long overdue vindication for the girl whose courage helped light the fuse of a revolution. But the fight against segregation wasn't just on buses. Up in the marble courtrooms of New York, a brilliant legal mind was about to take on one of the most powerful mobsters in American history. Her name was Eunice Hunton Carter. In the 1930s, Charles Lucky Luciano wasn't just a gangster. He was the king of the New York underworld, running a massive criminal empire that law enforcement considered untouchable. So who finally orchestrated his downfall? Not some hard-boiled G-man. It was a prosecutor who faced the double-barreled challenge of being both black and a woman in a world of white men. Eunice Hunton Carter was a force of nature, the granddaughter of a man who had bought his own freedom from slavery. She graduated from Smith College with 2 degrees in just 4 years, then became the first black woman to get a law degree from Fordham. In 1935, she was handpicked by Special Prosecutor Thomas Dewey to be on his elite 20-person team. She was the only woman and the only African American. Their mission: take down organized crime. Target number 1, Lucky Luciano. The problem was, Luciano was slippery, hiding behind layers of underlings. This is where Eunice Carter's genius changed everything. While working in the women's court, she spotted a pattern nobody else did. Countless prostitutes, arrested all over the city, were all being represented by the same mob-connected lawyers. Other prosecutors dismissed prostitution as a low-level crime. Carter saw the key. She theorized that Luciano's empire wasn't just built on gambling, but was systematically profiting from forced prostitution on a massive scale. She convinced Dewey to let her run with it. Carter meticulously built her case, interviewing hundreds of women from brothels. She didn't treat them like criminals. She treated them like victims. Earning their trust and painstakingly piecing together the evidence that proved Luciano wasn't just aware of the prostitution rings, he was controlling them and taking a cut. Her work forged the direct link that had eluded everyone. Thanks to the foundation Carter built, Dewey successfully prosecuted Lucky Luciano, and the untouchable mob boss was sentenced to 30 to 50 years in prison. The case launched Dewey into national stardom. Yet, the architect of the strategy, the brilliant black woman who saw the connection no one else did, was largely written out of the story. Eunice Hunton Carter didn't just break a case. She shattered barriers and brought America's most powerful mobster to his knees. From the courtroom to the very heart of the civil rights movement, some of the most important work was done by a master strategist who, for decades, was denied his place in the spotlight. His name was Bayard Rustin. When you picture the 1963 March on Washington, you see Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivering his iconic "I Have a Dream" speech. It's a moment frozen in history. But have you ever stopped to wonder, who organized it? Who handled the unbelievable logistics of bringing 250,000 people to the nation's capital for a peaceful protest? The man behind the curtain was Bayar Rustin. He was the chief organizer, the logistical mastermind. And a brilliant strategist who had been a key advisor to Dr. King for years, teaching him the nonviolent principles of Gandhi. Honestly, Rustin was the only man for the job. He and his team had less than 2 months to plan the entire march. Think about that. They chartered thousands of buses, printed tens of thousands of signs, coordinated medical services, and even decided which songs people would sing. Rustin personally trained volunteer marshals to keep the peace. The day was a stunning success, creating the political momentum that helped pass the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So why isn't Bayar Rustin a household name? 'Cause in the 1960s, he was considered a liability. He was a pacifist, a so-called radical, black, and openly gay. In the deeply homophobic climate of the era, other civil rights leaders were terrified his sexuality would be used to discredit the entire movement. So, Rustin was forced to work from the shadows. He was made the deputy director of the march, denied the top title and public credit he deserved. For decades, his central role was downplayed, a painful reminder that even movements for justice can have their own prejudices. But he never stopped fighting. He continued his work for civil rights, peace, and later became a vocal champion for gay rights. It took half a century, but recognition finally came. In 2013, President Barack Obama posthumously awarded Bayard Rustin the Presidential Medal of Freedom. At long last, a light was beginning to shine on the man who built the stage where a dream was shared with the world. The stories of Claudette Colvin, Eunice Hunton Carter, and Bayard Rustin aren't just interesting footnotes. They rewrite the history books. They show us a more complex, more challenging, and ultimately, a more inspiring truth. History isn't made by a handful of chosen icons. It's forged by countless people, many of whom get pushed aside because their age, gender, or sexuality doesn't fit a simple narrative. Their hidden power is in their resilience, their brilliance against impossible odds, and the undeniable impact they had on the world we live in. Uncovering these stories isn't just an academic exercise, it's an act of restoration. It restores our understanding of the past, honors the legacies of those who were unjustly forgotten, and empowers us to look for the heroes working in the shadows today. History is all around us, and its most powerful chapters are often the ones we have to fight to read. Claudette, Eunice, and Bayar are just 3 of countless hidden heroes. The world is full of them. So who are the unsung heroes you think the world needs to know about? Share their stories in the comments below. Let's build that archive right here. And if you believe these stories have to be told, subscribe for more hidden history. Let's keep digging up the truth together.